Hi there, friends. I'll come in here with a quick note to let you know that the first global product owner summit organized by the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast is coming soon. To know more, check out the bit.ly/product owner 2023. That's bit.ly/product owner 2023. That's all one word, all lowercase. And stick around to the end of the episode to know more. But for now, on to the show. Hello, everybody. Welcome to one more week of the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast. And this week, joining us from beautiful Germany is Tinatin Tabidze. Hey, Tinatin, welcome to the show.
Hello, Vasco. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So Tinatin is a Scrum Master, currently working in the beautiful Stuttgart in Germany. I do miss the mountains and the forests over there. Originally, she started out as a project manager, and she has experience with multiple Scrum and Kanban teams working with scaled Agile frameworks. And we'll dive into that right away. And first, Tinatin, share with us a little bit more about yourself and how did you end up becoming a Scrum Master?
Well, my background is pretty far from IT, to be honest. So I started out studying international relations, which has nothing to do with Scrum or any other framework for that matter. And then moving into project management, obviously you start delving into different frameworks. And that's how I basically accidentally stumbled upon Scrum as a framework and Agile as a mindset, because working in a typical waterfall style project management, it is pretty evident that there has to be a better way of doing things, right? So during that research, I think that was when I first was introduced to Agile and therefore Scrum, Kanban, etc., all the other frameworks. And firstly, through this like self-education, afterwards with a more structured course in digital project management. That was sort of my first introduction. And then it was followed by obviously the practical like work experience, working as an Agile coach first, and also as a Scrum Master. Currently, I'm a Scrum Master at TeamViewer in Stuttgart, as you already mentioned, and I work with 2 feature teams and 1 crew, which is more of like a technical team working on code modularization and so on.
Absolutely. And I do remember the old days of being a project manager and how, even though I wasn't convinced, full disclosure here, after trying my first Scrum project, I understood, okay, there's no going back here.
Yeah,
There's
true.
no way I can do things like that anymore. Tinatin, so obviously today's Monday, it's Fail Monday here on the podcast, and we want to explore a story of one of those moments when you were still in your learning journey. I mean, we are, of course, always forever in a learning journey, and I guess that's why we like to talk about failures here on the podcast, to explore what you went through, learn from it, and apply it to our own reality and work. So Tinatin, share that story, a story of a moment where you as a Scrum Master, you had that learning moment, a stumble, but then also, of course, getting up and learning from it. So tell us that story, Tinatin.
There's so many, but I guess if I had to choose, let's say for context, right? I did not start out with any technical background. And being a very new Scrum Master, I think that can be quite daunting because there are certain, even terminology is very foreign to a person first stepping into this role. And I think a lot of new Scrum Masters make this mistake of wanting to have quote unquote tangible contribution to a team, and let's say figure out their technical impediments, which is surely not the case of a Scrum for a Scrum Master, but I think it's very easy to get carried away in technical discussions and also try your best to first keep up, but also give solutions to those, which is neither in the role nor in the capacity of a Scrum Master. And I think that was one big.
Can you give us like a concrete example? Because I hear you, right? Like, you're not the only one who doesn't have a technical background, and sometimes we have a technical background in some area but don't have a technical background in the area the team works with, right?
Mhm.
Like, so that's quite common for Scrum Masters to be put into a team where they don't necessarily understand the
Mhm.
technical
Yeah,
aspects of the work. But can you give us an example of how it happened to you, of wanting to deliver that, what you call tangible
yeah.
contribution, very early on?
So this was one back in my very first job as a Scrum Master, and we were developing this authentication and authorization system for a fintech that I was working for at the time. And the system is not complex in its nature, but the implementation of it is quite complex. So we had developers working on it for a long, long time, and there were multiple aspects of technical difficulties as to its implementation, right? And these like refinements, dev discussions concerning this topic, they were always quite prolonged and blowing time box all the time, basically, but with no clear resolution. And this is not on devs. This happens all the time, especially when a team is tackling a technology which they haven't worked with before. This is quite common. So then I think at that time, I was more focused on understanding the actual technology and the actual implementation, i.e., the system design, rather than how to best navigate uh, the interaction and the communication around this topic. So I would say in this instance, a good tangible contribution, again, quote unquote, tangible contribution to a team that a Scrum Master can do is help them roadmap this whole thing. And this is what I think became quite evident after a few rounds of discussions, that it's not just that we don't know what we're doing, but how are we even going about it? We don't even know what we don't know as of now. So I think a good thing there was to have a system in place and a roadmap in place, which could be filled out first by the steps that we do know. And then that way, especially do not undermine the importance of visualization, in my opinion, because once all of that was on a map, we could identify where the gaps are and also have a good idea of when this product can actually be deployed and have a good response to stakeholders then who are waiting for this item to be deployed by the end of the quarter and saying, this is what we are doing. These are the steps that are mapped out right now, and we all know that the workload will probably double as you get to doing it. So then you also have an outlook, and afterwards the team also, they don't feel like they failed because they have this very well articulated um, overview of what's going to happen and why things are taking so long, as opposed to starting out like diving head in and then finding out that the one quarter is not enough and our forecast was off. So I
Yeah,
think
that's actually a great story from a couple of different perspectives. So the first perspective is that we can help teams even without having any technical knowledge. In
yeah, true.
fact, what you described as the visualization or road mapping approach that you took helps the teams themselves come up with their technical knowledge, which is their domain. It's what they
Mhm.
know about the best, but also themselves to understand what they don't know yet, which you also mentioned, right? And I think that's critical because a lot of the mistakes we do very early on is because we want to dive straight into the work and we don't consider what might be consequences a bit longer down the line, right?
Mhm. Yeah, and starting out as a junior Scrum Master, I think it's not um, necessary to have technical understanding and knowledge. At times, it can also be utilized in a sense that if you can explain this to me, it means that you understand it so well that it can be related to someone who is not technical at all. I think over time that should not stay as that. I think over time Scrum Master should be able to participate in technical discussions, not take not make the decision, but like be well versed in what the team is working on. But I think when you're starting out, especially as Scrum Masters, we move teams, right? And hence we move the technology that we work with. You cannot know everything. And there's going to be a point in time where you are starting out in something, no matter how experienced you are working with teams. So I think that's one thing, being easily adaptable, but also before that time comes, utilizing that not knowing.
Yeah, absolutely. You said something that I want to highlight here. I mean, you started by saying for junior Scrum Masters, it's not that critical to not be, so in depth into the technical aspects.
Mhm.
I would say that is true also for when you change teams, right? Because you
Yeah,
can go
true.
like you came from a fintech company and now you're working at TeamViewer, which does completely different type of software, even potentially quite complicated with network requirements and restrictions and so on. And when you think about it, like it's impossible for anyone to know everything about everything. That's never going to happen, right?
Mhm.
So when we take the perspective that the Scrum Master should be able to help the team reflect and contribute perhaps also their view on what the team may be able to do, experiments to run and things like that, it's very important to acknowledge that it's okay to start to focus as we start with a new team, to start to focus more on the collaboration and communication and maybe even visualization aspects of the team, and then only later on focus on the technical aspect. It's perfectly okay to have that learning path, as you said, because we can't know everything about a new team's technical
Mhm.
domain, for example.
Yes, very true.
It's a great story. Thank you for sharing that with us, Tinatin.
Thank you for your time.
Hi there, Agile friends. Thank you for sticking around. This year's first global summit dedicated to the product owner role in Scrum will have some amazing keynotes and 2 tracks filled with first-hand stories and experiences for product owners to learn more about that critical Scrum role. We'll have Roman Pichler, author and product expert, who will be answering your questions and sharing the most important aspects of the product owner role. We'll also have Colleen Johnson talking about why roadmaps are probably making your life much harder than it needs to be and what to do instead. This talk was quite a success in Agile Online Summit 2022, and Colleen has learned some new tricks, tools, techniques that she will share with us when it comes to roadmaps for the product owner role. And we will also have Henrik Nyberg, author of Scrum and Kanban from the Trenches, as well as one of the creators of the Spotify model. So come in and listen to his stories. And we'll also have, of course, 2 tracks with many more sessions and even some live sessions. The 2 tracks will cover practices every product owner should know, where we'll be hosting conversations on topics that product owners need to be familiar with, like product backlog refinement, planning, and much more. The second track will be on metrics, measuring product and personal success as a product owner. As product owners, it's crucial to have a clear understanding of what are the metrics that drive success for us, and of course also for the products and businesses that we work with, and we need to continuously measure and optimize those metrics. So in this track, we'll be sharing what's working and what's not in the area of measuring success for product owners. We will also have the opportunity to network with our peers. It's a network event, of course, so get your tickets and join our Slack. Go to bit.ly/product owner 2023. That's all one word, all lowercase. As always, we will have free tickets and VIP tickets, which will give you long-term access to the content of this summit. So check them out at bit.ly/product owner 2023. All lowercase, all one word. I'll see you on the summit floor. Monday is about what we learn from our obstacles and our failures. But tomorrow is Team Tuesday here on the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast. We explore teams and their journeys, the habits they develop that threaten their performance, how each of our guests help their teams evolve, and the one key lesson they learned from that experience.